Hi, Eclectic Crafter here. Today I'm going to make a sewing machine cover. I'm going to literally put a sewing machine on my cover. I purchased this mug rug pattern from Designs by JuJu. So what I have done is I pulled it up on my machine. I enlarged it as much as was possible on my machine for this hoop, and then skipped everything for this background because I only want the parts that have the sewing machine and the threads, that kind of thing. And I'm going to put it on here. So I had done this and I had filmed it. Oh my goodness, this takes 46 minutes to stitch out, but you know, really, that's just literally the stitching part. So there's the changing the threads and all that kind of stuff that add to it. So I filmed for 2.5 hours, and I had not stabilized. So even though I've been doing this for over 20 years, sometimes we just get carried away, and as you can see, it's just a bubbled up mess. I tried to steam it out, but it's just too much. It's pulled so much that when it got to this, which was one of the last things it stitched, there's a gap of like, wow, that's got to be 2-3 millimeters. So yeah, it's now the inside. I really like that pinstripe, but that's okay. The inside is now the outside, and we will put it on here. And these are my little bits and pieces. And I've got it all pulled up on my machine. As you can see on the machine, I have skipped to where it's going to stitch out the sewing machine body, the parts that will be stitched black with the satin stitch. That's the part it's starting with. I skipped all this little edge stuff. And it is on my machine. I use a Baby Lock Flourish too. So you would just go into there and you can hit, say, I minus that, and now it's jumped ahead. I'm sorry, I minused it so it went backwards to do the quilting section. I do that and it goes back to the machine. And if you do +1, it goes to where it's going to start sewing. You wouldn't believe how many times I have tried to start the embroidery part. But I've got a brand new battery in, all charged. We are raring to go. I've decided I'm going to use this light goldish brown for the markings. Not too dark, not too light. And I need to use up all these little ones. I've got tons of little bitty ones that I had bought over the years just because that color was what I needed for a particular design. And then you end up with a billion spools. So my goal this year is to get rid of the billion of little spools I have. So we are raring to go, and we're going to start now. Put down. Oh, I'm sorry. Because of my boo-boo yesterday, I made sure I couldn't make another boo-boo today by ironing on some interfacing to the back. Automatically, it is stiffer. And then I've got a cutaway. So between the two, this should really hold up well. We won't become arrogant again for a while. And let's start. This is a very long stitch out. I will be speeding it up and cutting out like thread changes, probably, you know, that kind of a thing, because that's just too long to sit and watch a sewing machine sew. the way this pattern goes is it does a section for one color fabric. You put it in, making sure you're covering all those stitch lines. Oh dear. Let me figure this out. I think oh, are you kidding me? There we go. It's kind of hard to see in this angle. I'm going to tilt it just slightly. There is a cat trying to crawl up the side of my house. You can't get in from that window. Is it Hicks? Of course it's Hicks. We're going to turn this on, get it stitched down into place. By putting that interfacing on the back, see, the fabric stays a little better. It's stiffer, so it doesn't bunch up. This pattern does a double stitch down. For the tacking stitch, it'll do it twice. It'll go one way and then come back. In between, you do want to trim the fabric down, otherwise you're going to have a mess. This may be the longest part of it. Between each stitching, you have to stop and trim all this down in it, so that 46 minutes becomes, well, yesterday it was 2.5 hours, but you gotta figure I stopped and peeled taters and all kinds of cool things like that. You know, potty breaks, refill the coffee. A satin stitch around the edge is a little more forgiving than a decorative stitch. So if you don't get it quite as close with the, if it's got a satin stitch border, it will more than likely, I don't want to say every person's design is going to function that way, but for the most part, I have never recalled having a problem with it covering the outer edge. Got it close, maybe not, you know, right on it, but close, and it worked great. This little spot in the middle is a little hard for my fingers to get to. Do not have the grip I once had. How's that? You're going to want to take a roller and get all these little bits. And I can see all right, now we're going back to the machine. Every time you take it in and out of this machine, you want to make sure that the excess fabric doesn't catch underneath, because it will happen, and then you've just lost all that fabric. That's how I ruined a sweatshirt. I stepped out of the room. I mean, I was out of the room for, Lord, 30 seconds, and that's all it took. That's why when the cat was climbing up the side of the house, I paused you and went out. I paused this, and I went out, and then she wouldn't even come in. It turned out to be the female cat, and she just wanted to see who I was talking to, I guess. myself. I'm talking to myself. Crazy old lady. Oh, I dropped that with bad hands. Okay, and now it's going to do the silver parts. You know, the flywheel at the end. And then on your antique machines, the front had a little chrome plate where your tension would be, this section. And now, so it's going to do the stitch, the placement line for that. Now it will do the tack down for the, I used gray fabric because it was supposed to be silver. I used to have some lame, and I used them for scrunchies, made all these scrunchies, and then just put them up for sale. So I've got scrunchies for the rest of my life, but I use them every day. So yeah, I've got silver and gold and blue lame. It was fabric I had. The next piece it's going to do is the wood base, the brown. I'm going to trim this off. And I know that it won't get near those. Let me close those. I know it won't sew near these, so I'm not going to trim those out right now. I'm going to leave them for after this wood. Let's get this placement down. This was the leftover bit from yesterday's mess. My machine always goes front and back to pull the thread loose, which is kind of nice, but I end up with this really long thread, and I'm thinking that someplace deep in its settings, I bet I could change that. I'm hoping this will stay in place because, let's see, it's actually better if you have more width on your fabric so that you have something to grip when you're trimming close. But this happened to be what was left when I made my mistake yesterday, and I didn't want to change fabrics. I just happened to like this solid brown, so I'm going to give it a shot. It's just going to take me longer to trim it out because I have nothing to grip. Now I do need to trim it up because the little red needle tomato applique goes right here up against that. That's why it's curved. It has this curve in here because that fabric's going to go right there. So I will need to take it out and trim close. This time I'm not taking you with me. I finally broke down and used my clips to keep the fabric up. I'm hoping I don't bump you. You are very close. You can do it. Okay. If you have some little clips, these were just dollar store thing. Oh, what do we have over here? General Dollar or something like that. So actually the stuff isn't $1. But they were like 6 in the package, and they're not hard. They don't squeeze too tight. So they're kind of nice, because normally what I use, let me find them. I have these things. I ordered a whole package from online because I couldn't find them in the store. I used to buy them at Meijer's. Meijer's is not nationwide. It's a very nice store, but you don't have them everywhere. And they are family owned, not stock market. So I can tell you from experience, if you're going to work in retail, working there pays better. They are union too. But anyhow, these have a much tighter, you see how it's going white around? It's a much tighter grip, and sometimes you don't want too tight a grip. So I'm glad I did pick these up. They work a little better without creasing the fabric. But I usually forget to put them on. I'm thinking more about trying to film it. Now it's going to stitch down the placement for your tomato pin cushion. That used to be, that's all I ever saw when I was young. Everybody had a tomato, and it had a little strawberry. I don't know why, a strawberry and a tomato together, but it had a strawberry hanging off the side, and it felt gritty. That was to sharpen your needles. Oh, here's one. See the little strawberry on the side? You stick your needles through that, and it sharpens them back up. So, that's what those strawberries are for. It's down, it's ready to go. Let's do our placement. Have we picked where we're going to be now? Alright. I just wanted to make sure I'm covering the whole thing. A little bit of red. Down. Stitch. These are Kai curve tips, and Kai is a more expensive brand, right? Now I have Fiskar everything. I have titanium regular. This pair I bought. Ooh, I bet 20 years ago. At this point, maybe more. You can tell they're really old, and they used to have a label on them that told my sons, don't touch. Of course, it didn't stop them. But Fiskars, they're good scissors. I'm not saying they're not. But my little Fiskars had worn out, and another YouTuber was going on about how great Kai was, and I thought, you know, I'm going to give them a shot. And I found them for only $1 more than what the Fiskars were, so it just didn't seem to make any sense to not try them. These things are so sharp. It is so nice. When these dull out and I can't sharpen them, I use a very high grade automotive sandpaper to just kind of cut through for these weird shaped ones. I do have a little sharpener, It's similar to your knife sharpener. This was a replacement my son bought me because I had worn mine out. After a while, they don't sharpen anymore because that'll just wear away. But when you try to do these curved, I'm not going to actually rub it against it. It's awkward, and they're very short. So I use the automotive sandpaper. And I'll just cut then little pieces off of it, and it sharpens them up. But at a certain point, or if you get like gouges in it or something, it's not going to do it. It doesn't work always. And then I will hopefully be able to find them really inexpensively again. I have no idea if the price has gone up. Everything else has, so it may have gone way up. But I will do a search for the ones that I bought, and I'll put a link down below if you're wanting to check them out. I don't have an affiliation, so it's not giving me any, money for it or anything. Maybe someday I'll look into that if I get more than, 3 views. Really, the last video I had to take down when I watched it, the volume went up. Like I said, my computer's getting really weird. And I put music in the background real low. And when I tried watching it on the television in the living room, it was really loud. It bothered me. So I decided, all right, we'll go in, we'll edit it again, and we'll turn it down really low. So now you can't hear it. But that's okay. At least it's classical, so they hit those, when they get really going. Oh my goodness, I don't like that. And when I uploaded it, it's a new video, so you lose the views that you had. It's been a day and a half, and it only showed 1 view. So this is the kind of views I get, and that's okay. I don't do it for money, which is a good thing because I don't get any money. But I do it for something to do. And since I can't work, I have to feel needed, I guess. Don't we all do that kind of weird thing? And now it's going to do the swirly thread coming off of the bobbin through the... So now that's going to stitch out the little spindle holder and the needle over here. And I'm going to use this gray until it's gone. It's a real pale silver. It's a beautiful color. And I couldn't match it up exactly when I replaced it, but I got close. If you ever have to leave the room, pause your sewing. So good news, that computer that was supposed to take 2 days to get here is here. I have to show you this. That is how close I got to running out. One spool down. Well, we'll just drop it on the floor so the cats can choke it up. Okay. I can't believe it made it. But it did. Yay. Hallelujah. I'm going to... Let's see. It's the brown. And this brown is a close match to the fabric. Just slightly lighter. I like the way it blends, so I will use that. As you can see on the screen, I do have one more left, but that would be if I was making the mug rug. That would be to sew on the backing so that I could then turn it right side out and no seams would show. I just wanted to use the applique. That's why I eliminated all those stitches before the placement stitch for the machine body, and I will now eliminate this last one. So this part is done. Get this out of the hoop. And there it is. I just need to trim off some threads, and that is done. So we can now make our sewing machine cover. I think it turned out beautiful. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the stitch out as much as I did. If you enjoy my videos, please subscribe, like, and comment. Thank you. Bye-bye.